Okay, bad lighting, weird hair, go. I thought I would tell you the next part of my healing journey, and it just continues. So this is just chapter whatever from where I was talking about before. If you're interested in this healing journey, it's actually pretty miraculous. So after, I think I mentioned in the last video that I was dealing with some hormonal issues. So I did specifically target those after going raw. Been raw about a year. Everything was getting better and better. I had transitioned off of and weaned off of all of my medications, including the birth control pill, all of my medications that I was on for acne, and everything for asthma. I just stopped doing everything, including just over-the-counter medications as well. So I did, like I said, specifically later do some targeting of my hormone issues because I continued to have irregular periods, skin breakouts, things that were indicative to me of probable hormone imbalances. So, and that can be caused from any number of things, really, and probably is a matter of a whole bunch of different factors, most of which probably I was never aware of. But I knew that raw food really counteracted a lot of them and things had improved greatly. And then I also did use this book. I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's called The Hormone Cure. It's by Sarah Gottfried. And I learned about her when I was an entheos professor. She also was one, so I would listen to her talks as well. And this is actually a good book if you're experiencing hormone imbalances. There's kind of a extensive quiz that you can take that will sort of lay out which types and why, the why behind the imbalances that you're experiencing, and then some specific healing supplements, activities, that kind of thing, that I found to be really healthful and helpful. So I do recommend that if you are going through hormone imbalances. But also I kept honing my diet. And by honing my diet, that means for me that I was listening to my body and eating the way my body was telling me to eat. And I've gone through different phases within that. For the longest time, I was just eating a ton all of the time. And that makes sense to me, thinking about going from a cooked foods diet where basically you're destroying half of the protein and a lot of the nutrients that you would be getting from the raw food. By cooking it, you're actually destroying most of those. So I was used to having to eat a volume of food to get the same nutrients that I was now getting from raw food from a much smaller amount. But it took me a little while to kind of integrate that in and start not needing to eat a ton all the time. But that was fun too. I learned a lot of recipes, and then my body started wanting to eat in different ways. And so I basically just followed what my body has wanted. And that went more and more down to doing more like juicing, smoothies, one more substantial meal. Not that smoothies aren't substantial, because they are, and they can be anything you want them to be, but one like solid meal, like a lunch, and then eating less at night. And then to now where I'm doing pretty much 18-hour fasting, and then 6 hours of eating, and just really eating two times generally throughout the day now. And that is I eat somewhere around noon. I'll have a juice and maybe also a smoothie, or those put together, or a salad. And then later in the day, I may have a snack around 2. And then the last time I eat is 4 or 5. So, and generally that's something pretty light, and I don't eat very much. So it's just my body has adapted and healed and wants different things now, but that's sort of a sidebar. But that process has been happening ever since I started on raw foods. and I just pay attention to what my body needs, like I said. So I healed I'm saying I, not as me, the identity healed this. I basically got out of the way by taking out the toxins out of my environment. I did a whole toxin dump out of my house many, many, many years ago and never brought that stuff back in. Very conscious of what I bring back in. I did a toxin dump as far as energies in my life, and that's also continued on its own path. And I will get sometimes kind of stuck on things because I'm invested in that thing, and then eventually I have to let them go. And so that process on every level is just continuing and continuing and continuing. But my body did heal the hormonal issues. My periods became extremely clockwork regular, which they never had been in my entire life. My skin cleared up to a huge degree. I did still have breakouts here or there. My intuition was that I was having some gut issues. I was on massive, major amounts of antibiotics as an infant and a child and a young adult and up through my 20s. Often on antibiotics, lots of medication around asthma, lots of medications around acne, including spironolactone. So I was detoxing from a lot of stuff. And also there may have been original gut damage from dairy. I don't really know. I know that recently I did a gut panel, and I like to just kind of check in. So my gut panel just confirmed exactly what was going on, that I knew was going on for me. I wasn't absorbing fats very well, and that goes for sure to gut and other organisms growing in the digestive tract, so it's kind of like it's kind of covered, and so it's not absorbing like it should be, which means to me that I wasn't absorbing other nutrients in the way that I should be as well. Now, during this whole health journey, I have worked with naturopaths, Western medical doctors. My family, like I mentioned, is a doctor heavy, medical profession heavy. So I did continue to get blood work and panels done the entire time. And those were just getting better and better. My doctor finally told me to stop. She said, I'm not going to do any more blood work on you unless you significantly change something in your life. You're the healthiest person I know. Like, there's no reason to keep doing this. So that was great. And like I said, my hormonal issues pretty much disappeared. And when Kyle and I were ready to have Vivi, we decided we got pregnant in 3 weeks, like I said. So that to me was proof positive that those things were healed and everything was fine. And we had an uneventful pregnancy. She was born healthy, and we both recovered and everything was fine. So that's a huge one. The main thing I wanted to talk about on this video, which it's almost 9 minutes in, sorry, and I hope those other things were helpful too, was a couple of years ago, I was in a very, very stressful time, probably the most stressful time in my entire life. And I ended up, of course, because my immune system was trashed, getting very sick. I got some kind of chest infection, which turned into pneumonia, which turned into pleurisy, which turned into developing they called it like a rind around one of my lungs so that my lung couldn't expand like it should be. It resulted in my collapsing of my left lung. The x-rays of my lung were like my lung was just filled with fluid and collapsed. So I was in a very bad health situation. I had fevers. I had a fever for months. And basically, I went into the doctor fairly early on in this sequence of events. And he told me to take antibiotics. I really didn't want to take antibiotics, but I did it. And that actually, I did 2 courses that started to clear things a little bit. But I still had fevers every single day and was still very, very sick. And so my doctor eventually recommended that I go to the hospital, basically said, I'm not taking responsibility for you anymore. You're in bad shape. You need to go to the hospital. So I did. I went to UW, and basically they told me I had come too late. The damage had been done. This rind had formed around the bottom of my left lung. I was going to have surgery. And they said, had you come in a week earlier, we would have had you in emergency surgery. And it's a big, terrible surgery. If anyone's had this, that they go in through your back, it's extremely, extremely painful because every time you breathe, it's really, really painful. And I was having that anyway. Every time I breathed, it was like as bad as labor pains. It was terrible pain if you've ever had pleurisy, or it was an infection between the pleura and the lung. So I was in pretty bad shape, and they told me surgery. So what I said to them was, have you ever seen anyone heal from this? And what they told me was that they had seen one person in thousands and thousands of people. And this is exact words they told me: in no world will you not have to take a mass amount of antibiotics more. I also had a lung abscess. In no world will you not have to have this surgery. And this was very heavy for me. I was breastfeeding Vivi. She was not toilet trained. I was in a situation where, she definitely needed me all the time. So this was a very heavy thing for me. I did not want to have to go into the hospital at all. When I say I went into the hospital before, I went in for all the tests and all of that, all the consults with what ended up being surgery and the pulmonary team and all this. So I did not want to have that surgery. I did not want to take antibiotics. And I talked to all of the doctors about that and felt very strongly about it. And basically they told me, the pulmonologist said, you have to take antibiotics. You have a lung abscess, and you have to take these antibiotics. We have to go in there and see what organisms are growing in your lung. And this is not a choice. And I was not happy, to say the least, about that. And I wish more that I had followed my gut. But I did allow them to do this procedure, and I can't remember the name of it. Thoracentesis, where they cut in through your ribs and go in and take fluid, or try to take fluid out of your lung. So they did this for me. It was a traumatic thing, and it came out with no results, nothing, no, didn't get any sample. So my pulmonologist said, it's not because there aren't things growing in there, it's because they went into the wrong place and didn't get any fluid. So I was facing probably having to do this again, but for sure she said, you have to take these antibiotics. So I did, because I looked up the statistics on lung abscess, and people die from this fairly frequently, and I knew my daughter really didn't need that. So I did. I started taking the antibiotics. I don't remember what it was. I remember it was blue. Actually, I still have them in my cupboard because I want to dispose of them responsibly and not put them into the water system. But my body said no. I started getting this awful rash everywhere, an allergic reaction, like a shock reaction. And they said, okay, absolutely stop taking it. And also, we have nothing else you can take because you are breastfeeding and there's nothing else we can give you. So my choice was stop breastfeeding so I could take this something else. or to kind of just blaze my own path, which I was doing anyway because they were really wanting me to go into surgery. And I was saying, I need more time, give me more time. And so I went back in for a surgical consult. Basically, they were going to tell me, this is the day that you have to go into surgery. And so I went into this and I said, you've seen one person heal from this. That means I can do it too. And I'm going to do it. I need a month. Give me a month. And they said, okay, whatever. Basically, they were throwing up their hands and the damage had already been done. So I went home. Kyle hired Amanda Richardson to come help me because basically I couldn't take care of myself, that I was that bad off, and I knew that I needed help. I couldn't take care of Vivi like I needed to take care of her. I couldn't sleep on my back. I was sleeping in a chair because the pain was so bad with a belt around it was just terrible. So I sat down with Amanda and we came up with a game plan. And I said, this is the food I need. This is the juice I need. This is how often I need it. Kyle got me an infrared sauna because I was like, I need this. I did I had conversations with Kieran, who is a doctor and a friend, and he gave me some tips. He was amazing. He went through my blood work with me and said, this is what this means, this is what this means, so I could understand it all in a way that made sense to me. And basically he suggested that possibly this was something that was working out physically through my body that was actually a psychic experience that needed to happen that resonated very strongly with me. So what I did, Kyle and I, first of all, pasted all over the whole house basically affirmations, but affirmations on such a deeper level, at least meaning on a deeper level for me, because I needed this coming in from every pore, every hour of the day, every way I could. I did absolutely everything I knew to do, basically to get out of my own way so that my body could heal. And so I had health, presence, spirit working through me, everything all over the walls, which sounds really crazy probably, and maybe some of this will sound crazy to you, but and I basically did this little ceremony with just myself. I think I may have done it with Kyle too, where I basically said to the universe, said to all that is, if this is a psychic issue, I do not want to work through this physically. I am willing and able and right here to do it consciously. And from that point on, I started healing. And I think all of those things were massively important. The food being extra massively important. I was doing juices several times, green juices several times a day. I was doing smoothies. I was doing a lot of fermented food to replace the gut bacteria. I was doing a lot of fiber so that was prebiotic for the probiotics to eat. I was just really on it on every level I knew to be. And let me tell you, it took a little while, but I healed. And I went back after that month for my checkup. And I went to the pulmonologist. I had to have another CT scan and I believe lung x-rays and blood work. I think that was it. And I went back and a lung function test. Keep in mind, my lung had been collapsed, full of fluid. Everything, my blood work was showing it was a bacterial infection and I had been sick for a long time, basically. Was my blood work. And so I went back in after having all those checks done, and the pulmonologist was sat there looking at my CT scan going, what did you do? and saying, she said, we don't ever see people that this happens to. They have surgery that, like, we don't see this. Like, this is, what did you do? This is amazing. And so I just told her, and my body just continued to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm totally fine now. My lung function was completely normal. My CT was completely normal. My blood work was completely normal. Our bodies are amazing. Our bodies are receptors for energy that heals us. Life is incredible. Life is inexplicable. Things happen in live beings that cannot be explained. We cannot explain what life is, you know? And I will tell you, I am living proof of this. So I would never tell anyone to go against their doctor's orders. I would never tell anyone also to go against their own knowing in their own body. So however you want to work that, translate that, apply that is up to you. But our bodies are miraculous antennas, and we have access to vibrational healing that can heal incredible disorder, chaos, and disease in the body. I know that 100% for myself. So the disclaimer, I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. Please go see whoever your medical professional is if you're experiencing issues. I also will say just as strongly, even more strongly, please pay attention to your body. Your body knows, your body has a wisdom that our minds do not have, that our brains do not have, that our intellect does not have. And if you use your body as the wise pathfinder, wayfinder, Moana fans, that it is, and use your brain and your intellect as a foot soldier for what your body is telling you on every level, you got to get cleaned out before you can hear it all the way. And that continual cleansing process is what I was talking about at the beginning that was happening for me in my life. I think that's all I'm going to say. So I hope that was interesting to you. It was another long one. But this is my experience in my body. And I came from a history of being very ill and on lots of medications for decades. And if I can do this healing, my belief is that most people can I don't want to say do the healing. I'm going to take that back, but can clean their systems out enough so that their body can actually do the major work of cellular, organ, whatever it needs to do, healing on a massive scale within you. And basically, you know, if you remove the blocks, remove the blockages, remove the static, you will start to experience this, that you are this antenna and you are picking up this frequency that doesn't have to be understood intellectually, but it certainly is here for our optimum health and benefit. So have a wonderful day. That's from me. Yay, raw food.